of NFHS 3. We have some targets in service delivery where we have the greatest challenge. Access to banking services to 90% of Indian households. Major subsidies and welfare-related benefits payment to direct cash transfers using the Aadhaar platform with linked bank accounts. Now, these are just a bunch of words that have been put together after a lot of thought, a lot of deliberation, a lot of conferring. Those have been placed as the overall monitorable targets of the 12th plan. Let me just give you one example. Taking from the monitorable targets of the overall plan, if you jump to the minorities chapter of the plan, we have named for the first time Muslim minorities. Minorities, the word minorities, we have removed the euphemism. We are talking of Muslims, and we are saying that the gender gap in education to be removed so that Muslim girls can be on par with the rest. Now that is it's one example, and it's an extremely important example. If there is one priority that the Muslim community has in this country, priority is education, particularly education, certainly education for the male child, but education as well for the girl child. Now, in order to fulfill this overarching, overall monitorable target of the plan, every state has to get on board. And I think this is where the real challenge is. The states, in all the National Development Council meetings for the last 9 years, I've been attending these NDC meetings and listening to the states. Their one demand is that let us become less dependent on the center. Do not impose the center's priorities. We know what we want. Give us free money. So the centrally sponsored schemes are now, today there is an article again in the newspaper, and I think it's in the Hindu, regarding the centrally sponsored scheme and the fact that for the first time, Cabinet has taken a very quick decision. Cabinet takes a lot of decisions, but this has been in record time, thanks to the intervention of the Minister for Agriculture, in which the Cabinet has taken a quick decision to pare down the scheme to 77. So, and further, there is scope for reduction of the centrally sponsored scheme to give the states more scope to exert what is it that they need and what is it that they desire. So I think the whole idea of disparity and the whole concept of marginalization and inclusiveness also extends to the regional disparities among the states. Which are the well-performing states, which are the states that are still lagging behind. And within the states that are well-performing, which are the islands of deprivation that exist. Even in a state like Karnataka, there is Gulbarga. In a state like Tamil Nadu, there is Dharmapuri. And so on. So that, I think the plan has to, the fact that the plan has prescribed certain roadmap. And the point that I'm going to share with you is that the Planning Commission provides this roadmap, and then there is the tension between the Planning Commission and the concerned sectoral ministry in order to carry out what the Planning Commission has set out as a roadmap. For example, let me give you the example of the National Rural Health Mission. In health, I think the point about people being left out of this health paradigm is one of the most difficult and most tickling propositions that needs to be resolved. So the National Health Mission, which is an overarching mission, which includes the National Rural Health Mission and the National Urban Health Mission, instead of two silos, instead of a silo approach, to create a convergence and try to bring health to the most marginalized people, people who live not in the metro cities, but who live in the Simlipal forest area of the Mayurbhanj district of Odisha. How do you get health to the Santals? How do you get health to the woman who is a tribal woman, who is totally and completely cut off, who lives in the dhanis of Rajasthan? In my book, which was released a year ago, in which I had actually encapsulated my experiences of looking after the social sector in the Planning Commission, called Beautiful Country, Stories from Another India, I gathered my experiences across the country, where I went not at all to the metro cities, but where the primary health center, where the sub-center, where the community health center, where the tribal hospitals, where the issues that concern the people at the edge, where those issues exist. And I found that in remotest corners of the country, it was because of a very conscious and active and participative approach taken by individuals and people just who were interested in giving their yogdan to this great project of India, where they were working, there was something wonderful going on. I have my colleague, Mr. Mahmood Khan, sitting here, who's working in a remote area, an area which is right bang next door, Mewat, right next door to the Gurgaon complexes and the whole design of a mega city. Right next to it is a heart of darkness, Mewat. And in Mewat, bringing enlightenment through a single person's effort, aided and abetted by a lot of help from community, but essentially, it's the fact that we have continuously said that when the efforts are made and something good happens, like something good is happening in Mewat, something good is happening even in the Simlipal forest area of the Mayurbhanj district, in Koraput, in Bolangir, in Kalahandi, in many parts of Odisha, there are things happening because people are trying, people are making efforts, and then to simply give a mantra and say you upscale all the efforts and goes across the country, that I think the economists and the experts will tell us that that doesn't always work. For example, it took me almost 8 years since I discovered the work that is done by Rani and Abhay Bhang in Gadchiroli, as far as reduction of infant mortality is concerned, by using the local resources available in the Baiga and the Gond women of tribal areas, bringing them, teaching them, and making them with simple interventions, reducing the IMR, bringing the IMR to a desired level within a record time. So that was called the Gadchiroli experiment, which I had gone to see in that district, which, as you know, is a very difficult and a very complex and a district which is affected by Maoist extremism. There, this experiment is successfully carried out. It took me 6 or almost 7 years to bring it as a part of the National Rural Health Mission. So whereas we have rolled out all these programs, and you know all the schemes of the government, you'll be hearing more about the schemes of the government, but when you go around the countryside and you go into the primary health centers, you go into the sub-centers, you go into the Anganwadi centers, you look at the severely malnourished, undernourished children, you look at the condition of, for example, the infant deaths that are recently being reported out of West Bengal. When you look at these conditions, you realize where is this national rural health mission, where is it working, and how has it actually rolled out on the ground, and how are people being benefited. So therefore, hence the service delivery becomes an extremely important part of the process of planning, which is again a very painstaking effort. We can say that the post-matric and pre-matric scholarship scheme, which is a very important scheme in the minority sector, it should be rolled out with on an Aadhaar platform. It should be rolled out, payments should be made as direct benefits transfer in the children's bank accounts. But we know that children do not have bank accounts, they do not have access to banks. Still, the whole banking sector access, there is a lot that needs to be done. So what we have tried to do is we have tried to provide this roadmap in my sectors. In the sector, I look after the health sector, I look after the women, children, and at the nutrition sector, a sector that I think I would say that this planning commission that I have been member of for the last 2 terms, and the second term is now drawing to an end. If nutrition has got a front and center role. It started off with Dr. Santosh Mehrotra pushing for it, but it was always an invisibilized sector, despite the fact that the Prime Minister said that it is a kala dhabba on the country, the state of undernutrition of the children. That has finally been, got a profile, and that has been singularly the effort. I'm not here to say that, make any big claims, because we are all in the same boat. We are all struggling. We are struggling to stay afloat, and then we get these setbacks like, the Chhattisgarh massacre. But regardless, this nutrition, which is one of the most difficult problems, has been actually we have at least got our heads wrapped around it now. I would say at least we have got there, and then we have this target that we are going to reduce it undernutrition among children 0 to 3 by half of the NFHS 3 levels. And then the issues of breastfeeding, and this issue of severely undernourished children, and all the programs, and the pressure to increase the funding made in each of these sectors. And the funding also is phenomenal increase in the funding, but the funding is never as much as the sector demands. So the result is that there is, the voices of discontent are heard all around. So I think I've just given you a brushstroke view. The 12th five-year plan is a draft of it, which I think is very close to the final, is now up on the net, and I would urge all of you to look at it. And I would urge you to look at one section in particular, which has got the attention of the whole government of India and lot of civil society. And that is a section which, again, I would say that it was a great struggle to put it there, and that is the multi-sectoral approach to the issues concerning women, children, and nutrition, and actually detailing what is the responsibility across the government of all the sectors. Simply relegating the sector of women, children, and nutrition to a ministry called Women and Child Development, I think is a fool's dream. It has to have a multi-sectoral approach. It has to be, let me say that the issue of the declining sex ratio, which is, I think, one of the most shameful conditions of this country. The declining sex ratio is not an issue that has to be either dealt with by health or women and children. It has a multi-sectoral character. It should be dealt multi-sectorally. And finally, since we have been able to include this matrix of multi-sectoral approach to issues of human development in the sector of women and children and nutrition, this idea has clicked. And for the first time, the Prime Minister's office has directed that all sectors within government take a look at these 5 pages at the end of the 3rd volume of which is called the social sector. I wish it was the 1st volume, but social sector always is the 3rd volume of the 5-year plan, to look at it and look at this approach. And then in the management performance appraisal, when the ministries concerned provide benchmarks for themselves, then judge them against their performance in this aspect. So it's like these are all instruments that we have thought about. These are instruments that we have placed there, which is again due to the contribution and the advice and the cooperation and the multi consultations of which Harsh Srivastava, my colleague, is sitting here. He was so much a part of these consultations that we had with civil society across the country. I remember even in Chhattisgarh going to a place called Tilda, where all the tribals from all over the country, I shouldn't say all the tribals, representative tribals from all over the country had collected together in Tilda to give us their advice on the tribal issues. So we tried to do a lot of, some things were not very successful. Some things were, really took effect. But the fact is that as a consequence of that, you have a document before you, which I feel that it is now up to intellectuals and scholars and economists like you and all of those people you'll be talking to in other cities when you take these seminars, and hopefully to the smaller centers, for the people to apply the pressure in order for the government to deliver. For example, that's the last thing I'll say, when we talk of the overall monitorable targets of minority education and filling the gap in minority education by the year 2017. Who's going to do it? Who's going to ensure that it happens? People like Mr. Mahmood Khan, people like Nisha, people like Santosh, like Sonal, like Amirullah, all of you are going to, like Sara sitting back there, you are going to exert that pressure on the government to say that if this has been the commitment of the government, by the year 2017, this gap will be filled. So year 2 is almost over. Have we gone 2/3? Have we gone 1/3 of the way? So I feel that those kind of nuggets have to be drawn out of the plan, and they have to be hammered. Otherwise, it'll just, they'll just be hidden, and it'll be invisible, and it'll just be another document, and a lot of platitudes and a lot of good things would have been said, and so life will go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hamid, for that really inspiring address. Although we are short of time, the program does say that we'll have a little bit of engagement with the audience. So if there are any questions, please identify yourself, and since we are running short of time, please be brief.
Ma'am, thank you for a good discourse. Name is Sanjay Nagi from Market Insight Consultants. In the Deming cycle, they say that if you plan well, then you normally achieve the targets. I believe, and most of the people sitting in this audience believe, that the Planning Commission has done a good job, but deployment on ground is very, very pathetic. Let's not be upbeat about the deployment. Leave the controversial topics like corruption. Can you tell us 3 major reasons where we can contribute, which are the bottlenecks in better implementation of your plans on ground?
Yes,
please. My name is Vijay Saluja. I'm the Senior Fellow with the Institute of Social Sciences. Madam, you mentioned in your talk about a couple who is doing excellent work in to decrease infant mortality. Now, my point is that if these people are doing good jobs, I think the country must know about them, and there must be many like these in the country. So why don't you do and devise a system to highlight those best practices and those people who are doing excellent job, because no one in the hall even knows about it. So that is my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. A.K. Mukherjee. I work in Indian Spine Injury Center. I was the Director General Health Services earlier. And thank you very much for the good, presentation. I have gone through your steering committee document. And the basic objective, you have mentioned the universal health coverage. When 80% of the doctors work in private sector, when 50% doctors are available, 30% nurses are available in the country, there is no possibility of getting an universal coverage. How do we approach that? And the one way, looking at the private sector, you have mentioned only 1.5 lines that the private sector to be encouraged. However, they also to be actually monitored. Your interest in the private sector has to be much more, which is actually at the moment carrying 80% of the healthcare services in this country. Please clarify the point. Thank you.
I'll take 2 more questions and then we'll...
I'm Dr. Garima Malik, Assistant Professor in Delhi University. Firstly, congratulations on a very inspiring talk. And my question, ma'am, you talked a lot about rural areas, you talked a lot about the marginalized, but there are a lot of people in the informal sector, even in cities, who don't have, we have the best of hotels and best of education, but they don't have access to them. What has been done to include them in the ambit? Because even if you have to get an Aadhaar card made for the maids who work in our house, or the drivers, or the car cleaners, they don't even have an identity card in order to get an Aadhaar card made. So what has been done about that?
Good morning. My name is Nidhi Jalan. I represent an organization called ADI. We work in the field of disability and development. And ma'am, we've had the opportunity to deliberate with you and many of the represent on many of the steering committees of the 12th plan to look into the 12th plan from a disability perspective. And we thank ICRIER again to have this opportunity today. Ma'am, when we look into the draft of the 12th plan, there are some recommendations, but overall we are of course disappointed. And there are two key recommendations that as a follow-up from the 11th plan that we'd like you to consider, that we had submitted to the 12th plan. One is looking into the allocation of the 3% funding for specifically for disability related issues, which hasn't been mentioned anywhere. And the second key recommendation that we had was looking into setting up of disability units within each of the ministries. We are very, very fortunate to have the Department of Disability Affairs be set up in the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, as was promised to us in the 11th plan. For the 12th plan, the sector is requesting that every ministry sets up a disability unit so that we can look into disability in every possible way. So your comments on that, please, ma'am.
We'll take one last question. Sorry, there's a lady at the back there. We'll take one last question. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Shweta from ICRIER itself. I'm an evolving researcher in agriculture. And given my interest in what I've been following of the National Food Security Bill, I was hoping that maybe if you can give us some synergies as ministry you're looking at from the bill getting implemented, if at all it is getting implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hamid.
Hello. Is it on? Is it on? Hello. Is it on? Okay. Well, I don't think I can do justice to these questions. There are, really, very, very good questions. And I think the first question is like the mother of all, and that is, I really like that question about, the fact of the ground reality and what it is we all know very well, and what three things in which we can contribute. So I can think of some things, but what would